This past week, Elon Musk decided that he was going to ban some prominent journalists from Twitter. We are lucky to have one of those journalists with us right now, joining us from the Washington, D.C. area. Stephen Herman is the Voice of America's chief national correspondent. Now, he was formerly the VOA White House bureau chief. He's been on the show, good friend of the show. We've known each other for 30 years. Steve, great to have you on the show. How broken up are you about being banned from Twitter?
Well, you don't see any red eyes, although this is radio, I guess, except for the people on Facebook. And I didn't get the hat memo, by the way, although I see the other Steve has also been hatless. Look, I mean, this is a serious issue, despite all of our laughter about it. And it is definitely for me and the other journalists who have been banned a professional impediment at best. I had built up a following over the years of about 112,000 followers on Twitter. Am I ever going to be able to communicate with them again on Twitter? I don't know. We'll see. I have been, quote, permanently suspended, unquote. And that's all the information I have from Twitter. With no explanation as to what I specifically did.
What was your last post or your last couple of posts before you got the announcement that you were being banned?
Yes, all the posts that I had been tweeting, or most of the posts in the hours leading up to this, did involve Twitter. They were posts about the other journalists being suspended who were tweeting about a particular Twitter account that was suspended. But Glenn, as you know from decades of knowing me, I do not give opinion. I don't try to be humorous on social media. My reporting and my tweeting is very straightforward. I did note that if you tried to link to this Elon Jet account on other social media platforms, something popped up saying it was dangerous and you couldn't actually put the link in. So some of us started spelling out what the link was for those who wanted to take a look at what this Elon Jet account was doing on other social media platforms, because obviously you couldn't see it on Twitter anymore. And it was legitimate news. This was a big deal. But Elon Musk claiming that we had doxed him and were giving out his position in real time is blatantly false.
Yeah, just a bit of background for our Singaporean listeners, Steve. As you said there, Elon Musk is taking legal action against a Twitter account because it was tracking his private jet, and then other accounts were then sharing that tweet. So, it was going on and on and on. But at the same time, he has restored Donald Trump's Twitter feed. He has those that criticized the Capitol riots or were in favor of the so-called demonstrations, their accounts have been restored as well. So it's been a very selective process, if you like. How is this going down in the United States?
Well, I guess you could say that some people are remarking, in their view, you have seditious conspiracy being equated with tweeting things about Elon Musk that he doesn't like. So, in a nutshell, I have to tell you, frankly, since this happened, I've been doing interviews, and I can still see things on Twitter. I can't see my notifications. I can't direct message anyone. I can't like any tweets, and I can't tweet, obviously. I still can see tweets because I haven't logged out of my account, and I thought that's probably not something prudent to do. I'll probably never get back in. But I haven't been paying too much to what's been happening on Twitter today, which is very unusual for me, obviously.
And the thing is, Twitter's a private company, and so long as it doesn't break the laws, it doesn't discriminate against black people, doesn't discriminate against people of a certain religion, it can do what it wants under the U.S. law. But Elon Musk has made a big point of saying he's an absolutist on free speech. And now all of a sudden, he's not an absolutist on free speech. He explicitly said he would not ban the Elon Musk jet tracker less than a month ago, or about a month ago. And now he's banned it. And so now Twitter has new rules, and it says that you cannot share live location information of a person. That's a violation of the Twitter policy. So if you are
understood, but that's not what the journalist didn't do that.
What I'm saying, and so he's a total hypocrite, and he's doing whatever he wants to do. And then the question now is, I think, what's going to happen with Twitter? Because he's just making it up as he goes along. He's changing the rules as to whatever he wants. Legally, he can do this. Constitutionally, he can do this. People applauded when Donald Trump got banned from Twitter. Obviously, this is pre-Elon Musk because he's reinstated him. So it's the question is, what's the future of Twitter if he's just going to do whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it and change the rules and make them up as he goes along?
It's a valid question. And I can tell you what my experience has been since this occurred. It's just about 24 hours ago, something like that. I had, as an insurance policy, had set up accounts on some other social media platforms a while back. Last evening, 24 hours ago, my time, when this happened, when I was suspended from Twitter, I went over to this platform called Mastodon. We have a bird, tweet, bird, and then Mastodon, this big, huge thing. I had 3,100 followers at that time. Right now, last time I checked, I think it was about 26,000. So I picked up 23,000 followers on Mastodon in 24 hours, about 1,000 an hour. It took me many, many years, since 2008, to build up 112,000 followers on Twitter. So is Mastodon going to replace Twitter? I don't know. But definitely the flow going from Twitter to Mastodon, although Twitter, is still huge, and it's the most valuable social media platform in the world, as far as I'm concerned as a journalist, there has been this gushing of waters from Twitter, the dam bursting, and a flow into Mastodon, for what that's worth.
If you've just joined us, we're talking with Stephen Herman, the Voice of America's chief national correspondent, and Steve Okun, our regular contributor on our International News Review, chief, the consultant for McClarty and Associates. Excuse me about that. Had a momentary lapse of reason. And Steve Herman, just want to stick with you. What are your friends and your colleagues, your other journalist friends, saying in recent weeks about the way Elon Musk has come in to Twitter?
Sure.
You just mentioned a moment ago, it still is hugely important and hugely influential as a platform. Do you sense that it is waning in just because of all the internal turmoil and the way that Elon Musk seems to be, as Steve Okun said, making it up as he goes along?
Well, I think people have been concerned for weeks, and I've had colleagues reach out to me. They knew that I was over on Mastodon, as well as this other platform called Post.news, and asking me for advice, whether they should go over there. And I've warned them. I said, look, these are not replacements for Twitter. They are alternatives, but they're not replacements. Nothing is going to emulate Twitter, the way that it is, the way that it works, the reach that it has. If something does come along like that, it could probably take some years to build up to that. So if you want to have the sort of influence and connectivity, Twitter is the place to be if you're in my business. Now, I have to say that the engagement, people responding, commenting on your posts on Mastodon is much higher for most postings than on Twitter, even though I have a fraction of the followers that I had on Twitter. Make of that what you will.
Yeah.
It's something worth, taking a look at, because maybe a lot of accounts on Twitter are bots and trolls and dead accounts or people that just signed up and aren't really very engaged anymore there.
Yeah. Steve, can I ask a question to both of you? We'll go to Steve in the US first. The French Ministry of Industry has criticized the lack of press freedom. The United Nations has tweeted they are deeply disturbed by, and you cannot use medium freedom as a toy. The German Foreign Office has said this jeopardizes press freedom.
Relating to the Twitter bans.
The Twitter bans, yeah. And yet the US government, which is often very quick to talk about press freedom in other countries or lack of, has not said anything yet. Why do you think that is, Steve?
Well, I think there's perhaps a couple of reasons. The European Union has been very proactive in targeting social media companies compared to the regulatory agencies in the United States. So that's one thing. I think the other is perhaps the administration, Biden administration, wants to tread very carefully about what it says and does. And as we have seen with elements of this administration, whether it's the Justice Department or the Fair Trade Commission, they tend to wait to get into the rhetoric until they have filed some sort of charge or criminal complaint or civil complaint. So we know that Twitter is already under certain guidance, directives from the FTC, the Fair Trade Commission. Will there be, investigations forthcoming from other arms of the government, including the Justice Department, the Security and Exchange Commission? I don't know. We'll just have to see. So I wouldn't take their silence as lack of interest. I think they're being very careful in what they're saying now. And as Steve pointed out, Twitter is a private company. It is owned by one individual. It's his country club. He can decide how he should be dressed.
And that's, you remember, social media is neither, right? It's not social, it's antisocial for the most part. And it's not media, it's a business. And so under the US, you don't have these First Amendment protections saying, well, Twitter kicked me off because they said something I don't like. Well, he can do that. And now the real question, though, that we have going into the Christmas season, right, is with Elon Musk's ban on tracking people's movements, what's going to happen to NORAD's Santa tracking?
That's a great point.
That is a huge issue, right? NORAD for 50 years basically allows children to follow Santa live where he is around the world. Is that now going to be banned? And this is a huge problem.
Steve,
I have
your ability to avoid answering a critical question on Biden has just reached a new level.
For years on the White House beat, I was tweeting real time where the president of the United States is, where Air Force One, the plane was, because I was on it or with the president, and this was publicly releasable information authorized by the White House. So is the Twitter rule going to go beyond even what the White House is authorizing to be released?
But Neil, the real question, it's not going to be what Biden does. It's what does the market do? And if people abandon Twitter, the advertisers abandon Twitter, that's going to force some actions. And because Elon Musk is so prominent on this, it's his, like Tesla is his. Tesla's stock is getting hammered, and people are now having a negative impression of Tesla because of what Elon Musk is doing on Twitter. So Tesla shareholders are furious at Elon Musk because he's costing them money. I think the market is going to force the behavior of what he is doing to people, what Elon Musk is doing to people, great journalists like Steve Herman. That's going to force it much more than what Joe Biden is going to say.
Sure.
Okay. In a word, will Twitter survive this?
Steve Okun.
It will not come out of the same shape as it's in today.
Steve Herman, last word to you. Will Twitter survive?
Despite everything that's happened to me, I'm optimistic. I think Twitter will survive in some form.
All right, gents, we do have to leave it there. I'll give the last word to Don Pierce on Facebook Live. NORAD, Don says, tongue-in-cheek, is a more significant threat than Elon. Okay, so there you go, from Don Pierce in Washington. Thanks very much to Steve Herman for joining us from Washington, D.C. area, the chief national correspondent of VOA and former Twitter user. And Steve Okun here in studio, senior advisor at McClarty Associates. Really appreciate you both coming on. Steve Herman, let's check in with you maybe in the new year sometime, see how it's going over on Mastodon.
I want one of those 89.3 FM shirts. That looks
it's in the
really
mail.
nice.
And Steve, we will give you the hat memo first next time.
I have done hundreds of shows to earn this. You've done like 2. You've done like 2.
Okay.
Hundreds.
Yeah, but Steve was very pithy, though. Very succinct, very to the point.
I'm going to get a keychain. I know it.
There you go. Maybe an umbrella. We'll see. Okay, guys. Thanks very much. We got to leave it there. Have a good weekend.
Happy holidays.